What is going on, my fellow Vikings of Valheim? This is Ghost here with another build tutorial video for you. I've had so many requests to give you guys the how to build for this house you're seeing, and it's finally here. This is one of a 3-part series that I finally completed for modern home themes. The first part is how to build this amazing modern home. There's also 2 other parts for the interior decorations and landscaping ideas. In the second part, I show you over 100 interior decorating ideas that you can use to furnish and decorate your homes. In the third part, I show you tons of landscaping ideas. With these 3 videos, you can make beautiful builds like this. So be sure to check out the other 2 videos for the complete guide to build all of the stuff you're seeing here. The links for those will be in the description of the video. This tutorial is a bit different than most. Instead of showing you every single place to do each of these steps, I will show you how to build each step and then provide you with a 360-degree pan of the build so you can see all the spots you have to use the step on. This is to help keep the video length reasonable, and I've also provided a few diagrams to help you with the post placement and other complicated things. So without further ado, I present to you how to build a modern home. The first thing you're going to want to do is flatten a large surface area of land to build this house on, and then you're going to want to build a stone base, and that stone base is going to be 14 stones along the front and 16 stones along the side. This tutorial is going to be slightly different than the rest of them. This time I'm going to be showing you one portion of each step, and then the rest of that step will have to be carried out throughout the rest of the build, and that is just so that the tutorial doesn't drag on in length because this is quite a large build. After each section there's going to be a 360-degree view of the build so that you can see in all the sections of the build where you have to carry that step over. For example, with the roofs, I will show you how to build one section, and then from the 360-degree view you can pick out where to build the rest of the roofs. One more thing before we get into the guts of this build: if there's a song in the background at any point in the video that you like, the title of the song and the artist's name will be displayed in the bottom left corner of the screen as the song starts. Here I'm starting the framing for the front of the house, so I'll place down a 2-meter post, and then I go over 4, up 2, over 4, down 2, over 4, and then I go up 10, place 1, go over 4, down 2, over 4, up 2, over 4. Place a post in between the 2 side posts directly in the center. On this one I messed up, but I corrected it after. It's 1 square out too far. Here is a diagram to better explain the position of these posts. Now we're going to play a fun game of connect the dots using 2-meter beams along the floor. This is where the front door goes, so I'm going to leave a 4-meter opening with 2 posts on either side of it. Now I'm stacking posts on top of each other, and this house has different elevations, so some will be higher than others. Just follow along and there will be another diagram after this section. Here you can see the elevation of the house. You can pause the video if you need to. The right side has a 4-meter elevation. The left side has a 6-meter elevation, or 2 posts high on the right side and 3 posts high on the left side. Next, we're going to build the soffit overhang of the house. This is a fairly simple process. Again, I'm going to show you it on one section of the house, and then you'll get a diagram showing you all the remainder sections that you need to build. To start it off, use 1-meter beams and build a 1 meter by 1 meter box off the corners of the house. Now it's just as easy as connecting these corners with beams. To fill in the soffit, use 1 meter by 1 meter floor panels and go all the way around. This diagram shows you where the soffits go on the perimeter of the build. Keep in mind that above the front and the back door, the soffit depth is actually 2 meters and not 1 meter. We're going to be creating another elevation to the house using iron posts for stability. This one's going to be a little higher than the left side. You'll notice I just offset that one post by 1 meter back. And the reason for that is along the front of the house, the soffit is going to wrap around and I want it to be flush to the front face of the stone veneer that I'm going to place in. If you didn't notice, that one post that was offset back by 1 meter is 5 posts high and the 2 at the front are actually 6 posts high. Again, this has to do with how the roof interacts with the front of the house. So make sure that you do that as well. 5 posts high on the one that's offset back by 1 meter and 6 posts high on the 2 front ones. Here I'm stacking 2 meter wide stones on top of each other all the way to the top of the iron posts. This is going to be part of the stone veneer for the front of the house. I then will put some iron posts along the other corner of it just to help with stability. Here I'm going to show you how the soffit works and the reason why we did that 1 meter back set on this one post. You'll see how the soffit doesn't stick past the stone at the front, and this is the intended design. I'm changing these wood posts to iron posts so I can get the stability and match the elevation of the front of the house. I didn't do this in step 1 because I didn't want to confuse anybody with the soffit height. So I'm doing this now and they will be 5 posts high to match the soffit height at the front. Use iron beams to connect all the 4 sides together so that you create a box. This particular beam that I'm building right now is actually going to be a temporary beam and removed in a later stage. It will be set out towards the side of the house to create the bottom side of a window. We're going to build a soffit on this side and the back side of this square, but not on the side that faces the middle of the house. That will have no soffit on it. Here's how the house should look after completing all the stages. One thing you may notice is that I also have a stone column on the back side of the house. I thought this would be a really cool little addition for some stone accents, so you're welcome to place that in there. It's done exactly the same as the front, but you can see where all the soffits are placed in this view. Another detail that you might notice is that the soffit over the front door is actually 2 meters deep and it has a gap between the front and the side of the soffit. This isn't necessary, it's just a detail that I added that I thought would be really nice and subtle. There's also a 2 meter soffit over top of the back door area, and you've probably already noticed there is no back door, and we'll frame that in a later stage. Next, I'm just going to cover the iron with standard wood just so that it hides the iron. I think it looks better. This is where we move that temporary beam over to its new location, which is going to be the bottom of a set of windows above. I'm using iron beams for stability and then covering them in wood to match the rest of the beams. You can either keep or destroy this beam. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't impede anything. I just prefer to remove it. Here's another 360 view. Nothing really has changed, but you might pick out something that you missed if you see it again. So here it is, another 360 view of the house with the beams covered in wood. So now we're going to work on the flat roofs, and in order to build the flat roofs, we need to infill the area between the soffits with floor panels. Now we're going to line the perimeter of the soffits with 1 meter high half walls. Next, we're going to be using 26-degree thatch roofs and placing them over top of the floor panels. You want to make sure that there's no gap in between them or the rain will get through and you'll lose your sheltered buff. You don't have to worry about covering the soffits. The soffits are on the exterior side of the building, so you can just worry about covering the floor panels that you place down. Next, we need to add 2 layers of 2-meter beams on top of the half walls. So go all the way around with 2-meter beams, and then after you've got back to your starting point, stack 1 on top of it while holding shift and go all the way around again. After going all the way around with your 2-meter beams, you're going to go around one more time, this time snapping 2-meter floor panels to them and creating a border with a hole in the middle like you see here. In order to fill the hole in that you have here, you're going to need to be able to support the pieces that you put in. And in order to do that, you're going to need to place 1-meter posts on every intersection as you build this, and then fill them in with floor panels as you see me doing here. If you don't use these posts to support the pieces, it'll eventually break. If you're building a house with a larger roof, you're going to need to probably run a beam down the center of the roof on the inside of the house to support the center of the roof. After finishing this roof, you're going to need to do the rest of the roofs on the whole house. So I'm going to show you a 360-degree view so you can see all the other spots that you need to use this technique on. Now we're going to fill in some of the walls, and we're purposely leaving gaps between these stacked core wood logs. The reason for this is we are going to frame in some windows. This is kind of a personal preference thing. You don't have to follow exactly, but if you do, here's a good way of doing it. Experiment with this and have some fun. Just a little commentary while you guys are building this. This wall that I'm building right now happens to be where the kitchen is planned inside this build. As for building in Valheim, why I decided to build a modern home is modern homes are something I really enjoy looking at. I've always wanted to build my own. In terms of building homes, it's actually something that I do professionally. I'm a home renovator, so I go into other people's houses and I renovate for them. I've even built some houses myself. I do a lot of additions, so I have a lot of experience when it comes to building houses. So a lot of the designs that I get from my modern home ideas I get from just constantly searching modern houses on Google. It's something I really enjoy doing, so I thought I would build a modern home in Valheim. It only felt fitting, I guess. I've always wanted my own modern home, so here it is. Now I'm going to go around and cover all the ugly ends of the core wood logs by using 2 meter and 1 meter posts. This will be the first rough frame of the windows, and then we're going to go around and add to them. Windows are an important part of any building, especially in Valheim. I find if you add depth to your windows and spend a lot of time adding details, it can really make or break a build. This particular build is very minimalistic, so we won't be adding a whole lot of detail to the windows, but enough that you know that they're there. Speaking about modern homes and details, a lot of real modern homes mix stone and wood designs together to create some pretty cool designs. So what I'm doing here is emulating certain little key things that you see in real modern homes by adding stone accents to the corners of the building. And how I'm doing that is while holding shift, I place the first stone on the floor, making sure that it passes the edges of the wall so that you don't see any of the wood ends, and then I stack them up. I make sure that only a little bit of the stone sticks out on one side so that it doesn't get too obtrusive to the eye. This is obviously another one of those personal preference things, so you can follow along and copy exactly what I did, or you can get experimental and try your own things. Here's a 360-degree view of where you should be at by now. Your house should be looking like an actual house with some pretty decent details. You might even notice that I finally framed in that back door, and I just left another 4-meter gap and framed it with 2 posts on either side, just like the front door. It's now time to get into some finer details, and we're going to start building out the windows. To create this stepped window frame, we're going to be using posts and beams and offsetting them in towards the building to create a stepped finished frame inside the rough opening of the windows. The first step we need to do is create a nice smooth finish opening, and to do that we're going to be using posts. While holding shift, you're going to want to mesh them into the rough opening so that you can cover the ugly logs sticking out, and this will create a nice smooth finish opening for us to work off of. The next thing we're going to be doing is creating a step inside our finished window frame, and to do that we're going to be holding shift and pushing the post inside towards the building about halfway through the finished opening. Next is the sill. Use the same technique I just mentioned, and sometimes if you're lucky it will snap in nicely and you can use the stock snap, but if it doesn't you will have to use shift and place them manually. Just make sure that the faces are flush all the way around all four sides of the window. There are a few different sizes and shapes of windows in this house, so I'm just going to keep building. I have a lot of rectangular, some square, some long and skinny, but I use the same technique in all the windows. Some of them I'll add an additional sill to, so just follow along and see what I do with all these windows. So the windows are built out, and now what? Well, details, details, details. It's all about the details in Valheim, and what we're going to be doing is going back around to each one of the windows and adding mullions in to get some different panes of glass and different looks in each window. We're also going to be adding other details such as soffit overhangs and eaves troughs, as well as soffit lighting and entry lighting. So you probably just heard me use the word mullion and have no idea what that is. What a mullion is a vertical or horizontal bar that separates panes of glass, and we're going to be using this as a way to get different styles in our windows. Another term for you would be a transom, and these are windows that are above other windows. They're called transom windows, and they're separated by a horizontal bar, and I'll be using transom windows to separate the large square windows and make them into two stylish modern looking windows. There's no real rhyme or reason here. It's all kind of just random, and I'm just freestyling it as I go. So keep watching or experiment on your own windows and see what you get. Now that I'm done with the details in the windows, I'm going to work on some other smaller details, and the first thing I'm going to do is add some eaves troughs to the edge of the roof. And to do this, what I'm going to do is use some beams, and I'm going to stick them to the edge of the roof while holding shift, and this will just add a few little edge details and make the roof look that much better. Over top of the front door, I wanted a little bit of a cantilever off the soffit, so what I did was I layered 4 beams. I guess you could use floor panels, but during the time I was making this video, I just had beams in my hand, so that's what I used. You may also notice that a bunch of the roofs already have eaves trough built around them, so experiment. I like to go around all of my roofs. I find that it adds a little bit more of a profile to the roof. Here I added a couple of torches to the front entry just for some lighting. Later on I put one in the back as well. So here's another cool little detail that I like to add to some of my builds, and that is soffit lighting. And how I'm doing that is I'm using horizontal item stands, and then I'm spawning in a swamp key with the command spawn crypt key, no space, with a capital C and a capital K. I attach the swamp key to the item stand, and the blue glow adds a cool little effect. If the blue color is not your thing, you could also try Surtling trophies. They emit more of an orangey yellow light. The spawn command for that is spawn trophy Surtling with a capital T and a capital S and no space between them. And that's it for part 1 of this modern home build. Make sure you guys check out the other 2 videos on the end screen. I'll place them there for you so you can watch them. They have tons and tons of other ideas that you can use for not just this build, but every other build that you do. The landscaping, the interior design. So make sure you check them out. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's really helping me grow this channel. And with all that being said, this was another Build by Ghost.